Well, welcome back to Walk It Out Wednesdays with Coach T, and that would be me. And I'm trying to give you guys words to live by so that as we are all walking out this journey called life, we are getting better at that walk. It's still Women's Month, so the topics are still dedicated to the emotional health of women. And tonight's topic is no different, okay? I'm going to be tackling the concept of taking your own advice because as women, I feel like we can tend to be great at processing inputs and developing sound solutions that seem to always keep other people on point because our solutions be on point, right? So we keep them together. And we have these wonderful solutions for everyone else. Unfortunately, when it comes time for us and we find ourselves in these same situations, there's wealth of knowledge that we were giving out to everybody else. We can't find none of that for us. Even in the same situations, we cannot come up with it. But why? Why can we not recall? We're going to answer that question tonight. But let's backtrack a little bit. And so, because I want to make sure I give you guys some good foundation. So back in October, I talked about being true to yourself. And I told you that every time you abandon the truth that you understand and purpose to live by, you violate yourself. And with each violation, you suffer consequences. You'll more than likely find yourself waging war within your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Why? Because you're not operating in the truth of what you know is righteous. And righteousness is not just this religious word that everybody like to throw around, because it really just means doing the right thing according to your governing authority, whatever that may be for you. In my case, it's God, right? And his perfect will for my life. Now, whatever yours is whatever yours is. I'm not getting ready to argue with you about it. But I do want to make sure that you understand that it's about knowing who you are and where you come from. So go back and make sure you get the rest of that because it was really, really good. I had to actually watch this myself today because I needed it. So go back and watch it. You can find the link to thine own self be true in the description of the YouTube video, okay? So now you're probably asking, so what does that have to do with the topic talk that you have tonight? And what does that have to do with emotional health, Coach T, right? You asking me. I'm sure you asking because I would be asking too. I'm going to show you how it ties because it does. If you recall, last week's topic talk, we learned that emotion is what we utilize to assign feelings to things we experience from a specific situation or a person, right? And those primary emotions being anger, fear, sadness, disgust, surprise, anticipation, trust, and even joy. Now we have to think about the consistent presence of a combination of any two or more of those primary emotions become the reason that love, which is a secondary emotion, comes into existence. Okay? Now, love can be either fueled by interest or indifference. And depending on which one it's rooted in is going to dictate our behaviors toward said situation or person. So now I'm going to need you, yes, I'm directing you to go back and get the rest of that because you're going to need the rest of that to understand some of the other stuff, some of that full concept. And again, the link to managing your emotions is in the description of this YouTube video. So go back and make sure that you watch both of those to catch up. But here for this text, emotions is huge. And it's the reason that we can't keep our tenets. It's the reason that we can't follow our own advice. It's the reason we can't stay true to who we are. That's why it's so important for us to manage our emotions. Why? Because when you don't, it leaves you vulnerable. And that very vulnerability is what's going to leave doors open for things like conflict, confusion, and error to creep in and cause all type of havoc. And now you're in a pickle. Okay? On the believer side of the house, that's giving place to the enemy. Okay? So, and yes, I am still, believe it or not, I am still talking about taking your own advice. I stated earlier, when we first started, I said, in most instances, we already have the answer. I'm going to say it again. In most instances, we already have the answer. And the reason we can't, because we gave this advice to somebody else, but the reason we can't take our own advice is because our emotions are in the way. They have taken over. They have clouded our view. So we have to learn to start digging deep into our train of thoughts and past our emotions to find the wisdom we once of our own words that we once shared with someone else when they were in the similar situation, because ain't nothing new under the sun. So we figured this out already before. Now you might have to tweak it a little bit in order to apply it to your now situation. But if we can just if we can find a way to get that knowledge back into the rotation in our mind, it will cause a shift. And that shift will take you back to the place of righteousness, meaning you will now know the right thing to do. You will see the right thing to do. You will know the right thing to say. You will hear the right thing to say. So while you're at it, let me tell you, this is the gravy on it, right? While you're at it, if you just, I dare you, if you just put a little bit of faith on it, put a little bit of prayer on it, put a little bit of praise on it, watch that thing work all the way out in your favor, okay? It will. I promise you it will. Now, realistically, I'm talking about all the greatness, but realistically, this process ain't about to be cute. As a matter of fact, it could get quite messy. Let me tell you why. Because you're going to have to take a moment and sit with your feelings, your emotions. You're going to have to feel those emotions, because you can't identify them until you feel them. Once you identify them, then you're going to have to think about how your emotions are affecting how you are dealing with the situation. What behaviors are you displaying? And you're going to have to decide if those behaviors are toxic or if they are healthy. Now, this part gonna probably require that you phone a lifeline. You're gonna have to phone a friend, because you're gonna need the friend to help you get a clear perspective, because you might still be clouded, okay? So if you realize that the behaviors that you're applying to said situation or person is toxic in any way, on any level, in any way, shape, form, or fashion to you or said person, then guess what you're going to have to do? There's another hard part. You're going to have to put your big girl panties on and set your emotions to the side so you can start to hear, be free to hear. Be open to Holy Spirit when he recalls that God-given wisdom that you were able to impart to everybody else. Then, and only then, will you know the next move forward. Most importantly, you have to forgive yourself for any error that you may have found yourself in and keep it pushing, because you're not called to be perfect. You're not called to be perfect. I'll say it again. You are not called to be perfect, but you are called to learn from your mistakes and progress. Join me next week as I talk about forgiving yourself, because I think that's a wonderful topic to segue into next week. So this has been Walk It Out Wednesdays with Coach T, and I am the Coach T, and remember to always just be you. And remember to check out the links to the other shows in this description of this video. Till next time, bye-bye.